On this fast-track episode of View the Right Thing, Wes and Desi delve into the long-awaited Freddie Mercury biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. Does this flick deserve front-row status? Or are you better off saving some coin in the bleacher seats? Stand by as Wes and Desi take the stage and rock you with their review of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Hey, it feels good to be back. Hi, Des. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So we're going to do a new thing for the podcast where you and I, on occasion, are going to talk about movies that are in the theater. Mm-hmm. We, right now, for the viewsters, need to know these will have spoilers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not going to avoid the spoilers. So, if you don't want to know spoilers, maybe what we'll do is we'll say whether you recommend the movie at the beginning, so that way people know whether they should go see it, and then they can come back and listen to the episode. If you don't care about spoilers, then go ahead and listen, although you're a monster. So today we're going to talk about Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a movie that you've been following for years.
Yes.
And you were super excited about.
Yes, it's been an emotional ride getting here.
It's been emotional getting here?
Yeah, just because, it's been oh, it's going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen. Oh, no, it's not going to happen. It's been,
It's been 20
tumultuous.
Yeah.
Getting it to the point where they actually made it and it came out.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a pretty big Queen fan. As a Queen fan, and I like Queen, but you're probably a bigger fan than I am. Would you recommend people go see this movie?
Yeah, I would. I don't know that I'd say, pay $20 to go see it. But
okay.
if if there's a less expensive theater near you, or you have AMC A-list or something like that.
Movie Pass, Cinema.
Pass, yeah, one of those.
Adam Films.
Kinds of things.
Advertising all the different movie passes out there.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know I would tell anyone to spend $20 per person to go see the movie. Now, we say $20, but that's because where we live in California, ticket prices are higher. And I imagine New York is probably really similar. Seattle's probably pretty close. So we saw it at a theater it's a Dolby Cinema. So they had, the Dolby Atmos sound and stuff. A lot of the Dolby Cinemas have Dolby Vision, which is the equivalent of high def. It's got the HDR Dolby Vision stuff going on. So those theaters tend to have an upcharge, kind of like a 3D movie or something, or an IMAX. So right. We probably could have seen it at a theater or in an auditorium that only charged $15 for it.
Yeah.
It was $15 is like a $5. What? How much would you think people should pay for the film?
I mean, I would definitely pay $10. $15, I think if you're a Queen fan,
yeah,
probably $15 is fine.
Right.
But if you're just so on Queen, then it's not really any different than a lot of other sort of music biopic films. So
right,
maybe wait and see one that's a band that you like more.
A band that you like more. There's not a lot of those out there.
No.
There's an Elton John one coming out called Rocket Man. That looks great.
That looks like a totally different kind of biopic, though.
Yeah, that one looks like it's built in fantasy rather than reality.
Which I'm excited.
I agree with you. I think it's a pretty middle of the road kind of film. If you've seen any biopic, if you saw Get On Up, the James Brown one, if you saw Walk the Line, which is the Johnny Cash one, or Ray, which obviously is about Ray Charles, then you kind of have already seen this story. Yeah. Which is interesting. Oh, I was going to say something interesting, but you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, interestingly, the two that you just named are about solo artists.
Yes, but they all have the same thing in common. Okay, here's where we're going to probably start getting a little bit into plot stuff.
Yeah.
Not too heavy spoilery yet. So all these biopics all have the same thing where they're these musical geniuses, and don't get me wrong, the movie's about Queen, but it's really about Freddie Mercury. These musical geniuses like Freddie Mercury or Ray Charles or whoever, they get so caught up in figuring out who they are and their own genius, and whatever their vice is, that they drive the people around them away. Mm-hmm. And then they have to like try and win them back. And that's sort of, you're seeing that over and over and over again with these musical biopics. And that's definitely what happens in this movie. The interesting thing is, in reality, so there's a moment where, okay, this is definitely heavy spoiler. Okay, so
from this point on,
we will have heavy spoilers.
Excuse me.
In this film, Freddie tells the band that he wants to go on he signed a solo deal.
Right.
In what really happened was the whole band was burned out, and they all agreed to essentially split so he could do his solo deal, and they did not fight over it at all. And they continued working together on an album that was going to come out later on. So that this idea that they sort of had some sort of animosity toward each other and didn't speak for a long time is completely made up by the movie specifically to make the plot fit this format that we know. Right. And that's kind of one of the things that really kind of my biggest negative critique of the film. While I enjoyed watching it, I thought the movie played it too safe. I thought they
100% played it really safe.
I think Freddie Mercury's sexuality was an opportunity for them to explore something really interesting, and I thought they handled it I don't believe it was very ethical. I felt it was a little tone deaf. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, like, they kind of address it, but they're never super explicit about it. Like, for a long time, like, you're not even really sure if he's been sleeping with guys. Like, they allude to it.
I agree.
But it's like, is he just thinking about it? Or is he actually...
You're not sure if he's cheating on his wife and all this stuff.
Yeah, his fiance.
Yeah, okay.
They never actually get married.
Okay. I think what actually, not just that they didn't like go there, but that all of the scenes where they do finally explicitly say that he's been with men or going to be with men or whatever, all of those scenes are about something negative. They never treat his relationship with men in a positive light until the very, very end of the film.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a disservice to who he was. Because I can't imagine that it was all just problems for him.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, obviously in that time period, it was very difficult to be
right. But what kind of message are we sending?
But
what message are we sending when we have a scene in a film where this guy he's desperately afraid to be alone, and he's looking for the comfort of people around him, and he throws this big party that has all of these drag queens in it. And his band members show up, and the way that the movie treats it is you're supposed to side with the band being uncomfortable.
Right,
they don't treat that as he's found people that make him feel comfortable with who he is. They treat the scene as if you're supposed to say he shouldn't be hanging out with these drag queens. He should be listening to the band who are all straight
and married yeah,
and doing the quote right thing.
Right, yeah.
And that feels it feels irresponsible to me.
It does. I honestly was surprised they addressed it at all, because I know that was a big struggle getting this film made. That his family didn't want the movie to be about that, which is unfortunate because it's his story. This is what his story is about. It
keeps the movie from being great.
Right, and it's I know that that's obviously not the only thing defines him. Obviously, he's a musical genius, and I can understand the family wanting that to be the focus, but his sexuality was huge. I mean,
it was an important part of what made him so enigmatic and daring.
Right.
And that's the other thing is I feel like we never really explored him as a genius. It was just sort of expected that you understood that he was flamboyant, so he was a genius. But there's a scene pretty early on when they start experimenting in the studio by swinging the speakers around and putting pennies on the drum and stuff, and that was cool. But we didn't get very much of that.
Yeah.
I also didn't think I didn't think we got enough of the concert stuff. I like the soundtrack was Queen the whole movie, which is cool, but I wanted to see more of the singing, and I wanted to see. There's something really amazing. That last 20 minutes of the film, which is the Live Aid sequence, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I kind of, when I was watching it, was thinking, man, wouldn't it have been great if we had seen something like this? Maybe not as big as that,
right?
But something kind of like that early in the film, and then had all of the drama happen and have all of that taken away, only to be given it back in a much greater capacity. Right. That would have felt like it was really earned. But I never really got the moment where he was on stage singing and the crowd was just blown away by him. There was a scene kind of early on where he was singing the wrong tempo, and the crowd, it was sort of that thing you do moment. That exact same thing happens in the fictional movie That Thing You Do, where the drummer plays too fast.
Right.
In this, it's Freddie sings too fast. But there wasn't much meat to that. No. I wanted to see, how did they get the song from Highlander was in the movie, but they didn't address the fact that basically they made an album and that whole album was used for a soundtrack for a movie. That's really interesting. How did that happen? How did the Flash Gordon thing happen? That's really interesting. Where was Somebody to Love? Where was, you know what I mean? In a movie a movie about a guy trying to find love in his life.
It's interesting because that song is in the movie,
but barely.
But I think more than once it was in the movie, but it's background and it's not connected to the story.
And that's what I'm saying. It's it was barely in the film. It wasn't important to the film,
right?
Which is weird. You mentioned this thing to me about the song for the love of his life.
Yeah. Okay, so like Wes said, I'm a Queen fan for sure. I don't consider myself a super fan.
You're not an expert.
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I don't know all of his songs. I know that I'm not that well versed in it, but I do like him, or them rather. Sorry, I have I'm getting over a cold, so excuse my occasional throat clearing. I've never heard that song.
What was the song called? Do you remember?
I think it's called Love of My Life.
Was it called Love of My Life?
And it was hugely important to the film. And at the Live Aid concert, everyone knows it. Everyone is singing it.
Yeah.
Or was it at the Live Aid concert? I don't know, one of the concerts. Everyone's singing it. And I was like, wait a minute. This song's really good and I've never heard it. There are definitely, I think, some very popular sort of rock anthem Queen songs that everyone knows, and I think some of this other stuff gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, well, so from my understanding, Love of My Life is on the same album as Bohemian Rhapsody. It was like the whole album is like an opera. So I think that's probably why a lot of people knew it, was because they didn't have a best of, right? So so I think people probably listened a lot to the album and they knew the songs on that. Like I couldn't tell you any of the other songs that were on the album.
Right, because at our age, what we've listened to is greatest hits.
Right.
Like even listening to it on cassette as a kid, it was still greatest hits.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice to hear some of those songs and go, oh, I should go listen to more Queen stuff that I haven't heard before.
Now that you bring up that song, that was another opportunity where I thought they could have keyed us into how important Queen was, and what the effect was that they had. Like, every time we got the effect that Queen had, it was like, oh, somebody recognizes them, or oh, they're having a big party, or oh, they're having a fight with the record people who don't think they're going to be as big as they are, but we know they are, wink wink.
Right, yeah.
But again, like, I wanted that scene where they were really connecting with an audience, and we got a little glimpse of that when he came home to his fiance, and he played the Love of My Life video recording in, I think it was Rio, and the crowd who didn't speak English knew all the lyrics, and it affected him in such a profound way. Why didn't I get to see that scene happen in real time? Why didn't I get to see the look on his face when he realized what was going
on the TV that they're watching?
Yeah, like, why was there such a disconnect? I think it was so they could have a scene where she tells him that he's gay, but
the interesting
that could have still been done.
Yeah, but the interesting thing too is that, like, the whole movie we don't get that, like, he's such a musical genius, and you want his story, but a huge part of his story is how he affected people, and
and do you feel like you got
how
that?
people reacted to him, and I don't feel like I got that. Like,
I agree.
Like, barely, like, there's one moment, like, in the hospital.
It was,
that was the only time where I was that was the only time when I was like, people are seeing him and going and feeling more comfortable in their own skins and going, I'm not a crazy weirdo. Like, it's okay to be who I am.
In a time where people were pretty open with gay slurs and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because it sounds kind of like we're really down on the movie. The movie's fun. It's just
it could have been so much more.
It could have been so much more. And they really had opportunities. And it sort of felt like they had to, do a specific format because of what type of film it was. And it felt like they didn't want to fully go into the concert stuff, and they didn't want to fully go into the gay stuff. So they kind of just, like, sat on the line. And what ended up happening was you had a very, like, average film.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can appreciate focusing on them as a band and focusing on, the contributions that the rest of the band made to it. And that, like, when he tried to go do a solo career, he was like, I can't do this without you guys. Like, we need to be a team. Like, he was like, I need the resistance that you guys give me. I need the feedback. I need our collaboration. Yeah. And I definitely appreciated that. And I know that was a big thing trying to get this film made. And that at some point there was even talk that the movie he would only be in half the movie. Yeah. And then it would be about them dealing with losing him. And it's weird because, like, when I first heard that, I was like, no, that's dumb. I don't but no, like, seeing more of how they interacted together, if that was really true to life. Yeah. I actually would have liked to see some of that, not half the movie, but a little bit of them dealing with him being gone because, without him, their band is not a whole anymore.
Well, I think the problem is that it was manufactured.
Yeah.
It wasn't grounded in reality, so it's like, well, now we got to write something for the band. It was just easier to have this like fake drama. It's very like reality show, which is really disappointing.
But it's not the drama aspect of it. Like I hope that it wasn't manufactured. I mean, I'm sure like, when you look at all the credits, those guys did write those songs. They did.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not the drama part that I'm talking about. It's the part where they
No, I'm saying they felt they needed to create this fake thing.
Oh, where they could have had the drama of them having to deal with him being gone.
No, I'm saying I don't think there was drama of that. That's the problem. Is that him being gone?
No, I mean after he died.
Oh, after he died. Yeah.
Died.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it would have been a much more interesting film if it would have been about Queen. And I think it would have been more interesting if they had been more transparent with who they all were.
Absolutely. And I think like I said, I know they had trouble getting this film made at all because whoever's in charge of his estate, I guess, I don't know who that would be, but maybe
Jim Hutton, maybe,
or his fiance,
or his family, I don't know,
his ex-fiance who he still was close with. They didn't want it to be about him being gay, and like they resisted that transparency.
Yeah. All right, well, we got to wrap this up.
Excuse me. I think it's worth seeing. The soundtrack is obviously fantastic because it's Queen.
Yep.
I would highly recommend checking out some Queen stuff you've never heard before because there's some really great stuff that I think we don't hear because it's not the best of, quote unquote.
I agree. If you have one of those passes and you can see it on any screen or whatever, like if you have the AMC A-list pass, not an ad, see it in the Dolby probably, or the IMAX, so you just have the big sound.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I will say, Rami Malek is phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't say that. Rami Malek, I was sitting there thinking at the end of the film, we watched the entire credits and listened to the music and stuff, and I kept thinking, could he, in a movie so just kind of could he get an award nomination? Because he was so good. He
was charismatic. He was like
he really felt like Freddie Mercury.
Like, it's funny because in some of the previews I was like, I can't not see Rami Malek, but once we were watching the movie, it was fine.
Yeah, he was great.
But yeah, he was so good in it, and there was some turmoil getting an actor for this movie, and
poor Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, I really would have liked to see Sacha Baron Cohen do this movie. I think that he would have been very good as well, and he sings, and and Rami Malek I think does some singing in the movie. It's like a combination.
From what I understand, they used his voice, a sound-alike guy from YouTube who does Freddie Mercury, and Freddie's actual voice. Rami Malek said that he wanted their goal was for you to hear as much Freddie as possible. Right. So I think it's like a combination of the three of them.
Yeah. So he does a fantastic job.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Great. All right. Well, we'll come back another time with another theatrical movie. In the meantime, Steve and I have episodes to record as well as maybe some new guest co-hosts this year. So pretty exciting. Until next time, Bon Cinema.